Bad tenants in New York haven't paid rent in more than 3 years, and a landlord is owed over $100,000. He says it's the state's fault that these tenants haven't paid rent. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of New York State. Obviously, New York State had one of the longest eviction moratoriums in the entire country. And even though it's ended, there are a lot of landlords out there right now who still haven't been compensated all the money that they are owed. Not only that, but they still have tenants in their properties that they can't evict. And the reason is because they put rules in place even after the eviction moratorium ended that made it almost impossible to evict certain tenants. Okay. And those tenants were the ones who had applied for rental assistance. Even though they had no rental assistance money to give the landlords, just by putting that application in there, those tenants were able to get a pause on their eviction until their cases were completely processed. Well, it was a complete joke, and now landlords are out even more money than they were before, and it's just ridiculous. So I can't say that I don't feel the pain that a lot of these landlords are feeling right now. And I just want to bring these stories to you to let you know that, hey, even though the pandemic was, it's over. Okay. It's over. A lot of the eviction moratoriums throughout the country have already ended, right? But there are still landlords out there in places like New York and places like California that are suffering through this nonsense because they have these bureaucrats and these politicians in place right now, and they don't understand anything about business. They don't understand anything about finances, and all of the laws, rules, and regulations they put in place have had unintended consequences that will result in landlords in financial distress, going bankrupt, having their properties foreclosed, and it's absolutely ridiculous, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, okay? Do you believe that these landlords are ever going to get compensated the money that they are owed? Okay, the money that the government took away from them. Remember, the government is picking winners and losers here. They decided, oh, well, you know what? These tenants over here, they're the winners. The landlords are the losers. And I hate that. I don't think the government should be picking winners or losers. I believe we should have a free market system where the economics of the system are what determines the winners and the losers. Okay, and what we end up with when we have government intervention like this, we have tenants who take advantage of the situation. We have landlords ending up in financial distress. And when a landlord ends up in financial distress, they decide to get out of the business, whether they have need for more property or not. So when less landlords want to be landlords, guess what happens? There's fewer rentals, and the price of those rentals increases because the demand, it's probably the same or going higher. Okay. Oh man, you know what? It boggles my mind that politicians they don't understand basic economics of the situation. Forcing landlords to house people for free, that just it's not going to work. Why don't they understand this? Anyway, let's get into this article because I want to tell you this story, and it's a good story, and it's important that we keep these landlords in our minds. This story is coming from WKTV.com, and it says, landlords left holding the bill for unpaid rent. Let's get into it. Andrew Morocco is a landlord and had a number of his tenants stop paying rent during the pandemic. He's still trying to evict one of the tenants, and his bill keeps piling up. Oh, I'm over $100,000. That's money Morocco has lost in rent and has had to pay for damages done to his apartments. Sunnyside Apartments of Utica owner Jim Julian says the state's to blame for enacting laws that made it nearly impossible to evict a tenant, even if they stopped paying rent. It was just thrown out there. Don't pay the rent. And really, when one person started to do it, two people started. It kind of caught fire because everyone said, well, he's not paying, she's not paying. Why do I have to pay? He said. And that's a very good point, okay? The other tenants, when they saw that, hey, well, you know what, there's these tenants over here and they're not paying rent and they're not getting evicted, you know what they said? Well, at least not all of them, okay? But the ones who wanted something for free, they wanted something for nothing, they were like, hey, I'm not going to pay anymore either. Okay, I'm just gonna live here for free. And you think they were actually banking that money? No, I don't. I think they were off spending on other stuff. Be it big screen TVs, or new cars, or clothes, or gambling, or smoking, or buying alcohol, or whatever, right? They were spending that money on something else. They didn't save it. They didn't say, "Oh, you know what? We're going to take this money savings and bank it just in case we have to start." No, they don't. They don't give a crap. Okay, they knew they couldn't be evicted. They thought of it as free, free money for them, and they went and spent it somewhere else. So there's almost no chance the landlord's ever going to be able to recover any of this money. I mean, without lawsuits, etc. And the question is, $100,000. It might be worth it to try to go after the tenant, depending on the circumstances. Okay. So, I mean, that's a lot of money. That is a ton of money. I mean, I don't think I could let $100,000 go. But I'm not this landlord. Okay, this landlord might have their reasons for letting this amount go. So everyone's situation is different. Evicting someone wrongfully can result in the landlord being sued for up to 3 times the amount of money they're owed. Tenants who rented less than a year have to be given a 30-day notice before starting the eviction process. It's a 60-day notice for tenants who've lived in an apartment for 1 and 2 years, and a 90-day notice for anyone over 2 years. If the renter stopped paying rent, Morocco says all that time amounts to a lot of lost money for landlords. They got 3 years of free rent, and then they just trash it and disappear, he said. So what did they do? They saved what? $30,000 out of their pocket, and then cost me $30,000. Plus, I still got to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the maintenance, and then whatever it takes to clean it up after they destroy it, and they have nobody to answer to. That's why I say, like, I don't know if I could let this sort of thing go. It's the point. I want to make a point with these people that they just can't do whatever they want. And I know, yeah, the legal cost for suing these tenants for these damages is not going to be cheap, right? But I can't, like, these people, they got away with free rent. They tore my place apart, and I ended up stuck with all the payments, and they get away scot free. No, no, I want them to pay. Okay, we heard of justice before. You deserve to have your wages garnished. You deserve for me to send the debt collectors on you. Okay, you are a piece of garbage for doing this and then just trying to disappear. Julian says there's dozens of laws protecting the tenant, but landlords have little protection against bad tenants. We paid our taxes, we paid our income taxes, we paid our property taxes, we paid our national grid. We paid all the bills that we had to pay, so this was money just out of our pocket, he said. If someone came into my house and stole the amount of money they stole off my kitchen table, I gotta tell you, they'd be in jail for a long time, but for some reason, this is not treated the same way. Both landlords have reached out to government officials for help, but so far, Morocco says he's gotten nowhere. I've tried the city, I've tried the county, I've tried the state. I haven't called anybody on the federal level, but I've tried hundreds of hours on the internet trying to find somebody. It's just a bunch of dead end roads. People don't get back to me. People leave me on hold, he said. And he makes a very good point, okay? If he had a pile of $60,000 sitting on his table, and somebody came in and just took it, well, that's called stealing, right? And in my opinion, if a tenant goes into your property, lives there, doesn't pay you rent, leaves, and destroys your property, that's theft and property damage right there. Okay, and the tenant should be arrested for it. That's my personal opinion. And if they can't compensate me what they owe me, you know what? They should go to jail for larceny. That is theft, literally theft. That's why I said I have no sympathy for them, and I would probably have to go the civil route and sue them because, I just, man, letting this sort of thing go will just encourage these people to do it again to another landlord. Okay, and I don't like that. I don't like the idea of this person possibly going out there doing it to another landlord and me looking like the fool and just, I guess I'll just take this loss. But that's what the government wants of us. Okay, they want us to take the loss because in their minds, well, all landlords are super rich and they can just handle it, right? Not even realizing that, I pulled the statistics out about landlords. The grand majority of landlords are small mom and pop landlords. Okay, they own one property. The grand majority, more than half of all landlords, only own one property. One house. It was probably a house they used to live in that they turned into a rental after they moved out. So in that kind of situation where you have one property, you get screwed over by a tenant like this, you know what happens? It can ruin you financially. Okay, $100,000. Now, this landlord, I don't know if they're doing okay. They might be okay for now, but what are the repercussions of such actions, right? This landlord's going to have to raise his rent, and he's going to, increase his screening criteria. He's going to make sure that these lower income tenants who are, a little bit questionable never get into his property again. Okay, he's going to make sure that, hey, I am charging the maximum amount of rent possible, because I don't want to have to deal with not being paid rent for a long period of time, and I have to make up for all the losses that I've taken. Okay, so yeah, this ends up bad for tenants as well as the landlords. They're going to have less selection in terms of properties they can live in. They're going to have to pay more for rent, and it's all the fault of these cheaters and these people who abuse the system, and of course the government for allowing them to do it.